what's up? John Sonmez from SimpleProgrammer.com. And today I'm going to answer a fun question about why don't you play poker anymore? This question is from Vince. I like the name Vince. I always wanted to have a stage name of Vince DeLeon. If ever became a famous actor, I think I would go with Vince DeLeon. Anyway, Vince says, why don't you play poker anymore? Additional info. He says, in your persistence to one thing that will lead you to success, so you can check out that video, he said you almost became a professional poker player and you made a lot of money. A couple years ago, I was reading a lot about poker and the math behind it. After some time, I decided I am not going to pursue my poker career because I hated playing it. I thought I would be wasting my life and that there must be a better way to achieve financial independence. I think I made a good decision, but I want to know your thoughts about this matter. Could you tell us why you don't play poker anymore? How old were you? And also, are you as transparent about your billing hours and pricing and your Entrepreneur's Developerpreneurs podcast? Also, as you are transparent, how much was the lot of money you made with poker? So, this is an interesting question. Why did I quit? So, one of the main reasons why I ended up quitting poker, I won't say it's the main reason, but it was the thing that finally set me over the edge to quit poker, was back in, 2011, when they had that whole online poker FBI SWAT thing where they shut down the online poker sites in the US. I had some money in, I think I was playing on Full Tilt Poker and PokerStars mostly, and I had taken off, I think like $8,000 or $9,000 off of Full Tilt, which I'd built my bankroll up to. Not a huge bankroll, but I was working on it. I was making, spending some of it and whatnot. And then I had like maybe $1,000 in PokerStars. So I ended up losing to like $1,000 in PokerStars. But that was sort of the catalyst. So what ended up happening was when I first started playing online poker, I was not very good, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was reading a lot, learning a lot about poker, and I eventually became better. And as I became better, the field also became better as well. But I started to excel the field. But there started to reach this point where the field was accelerating, and I just felt like there wasn't a huge advantage that you could have anymore, right? Everyone had read Harrington's series, Harrington on Hold'em, which is one of my favorite tournament poker books. I like the idea of playing tournament poker, and people were just getting better around that time, around 2011. I'm sure that even now, I don't know how the environment is now, but having been someone who played Magic the Gathering, a lot of tournament scenes, and a lot of kind of similar types of things. I'm trying to think what is similar. Poker and Magic Gathering are very similar. They evolve around this meta game. So what is going on? How are people playing? What is the strategy? Not what is the optimal strategy under any case, but what is the optimal strategy based on how people are playing? And I felt like at that time, around 2010, 2011, that meta game had developed to such a point where you didn't have very much of an advantage. Now, in Magic the Gathering, you could have more of an edge because there were so many strategies, so many combinations of things that you could do. But in poker, if you think about it, I don't want to say that there's no strategy and there's no variation, but it's limited. You only have so many moves you can do, right? You can fold, you can raise, you can call, right? There's only so many moves you can do and so many cards you have and so much that you can do with it that there's not a huge amount that you can really break out of, right? I mean, you've got people like back then, what was it, like Gus, what's his name? You had Phil Ivey and you had like Gus Hansen, is that his name? Where they'd play these kind of wild aggressive versus someone like who is it, like Harrington, right? And he would play like this very conservative type of game, and so a tight aggressive, right, versus the loose aggressive and all this stuff. So I got really focused, really good at poker. Like I felt like as good as you could get strategically from reading and I played so many. I was playing like 8 games at a time. And what ended up happening was, so when I say playing professionally, what I was able to do was I was able to figure out that I could play poker and I could make about, 30 or 40 bucks an hour. And that was professional to me because that means that I don't have to work a regular job. I could just do poker. And so I was doing that for a while, for a couple of years, where I was doing that part-time and making that money, and I was managing my bankroll very scientifically and doing all the right things. And in fact, I had gone through this phase, like to give you my whole poker story. And I had basically, because when I first started out playing poker, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I wasn't very good, right? And I would put money on the account and I'd lose the money and play these tournaments, and I'd be good sometimes, and I just didn't have the patience and the emotional control to be good at poker, which is one thing I really learned from poker is emotional control. That's the key. Like at the top level, the best poker players, they know the correct strategies and moves, and there's some variation between that. But in general, right, what ends up happening that makes someone actually be a winner or the best at that top level is execution. Can they consistently execute? Can they have the emotional control? So I eventually, what I ended up doing was I had like 7 cents on my account, or maybe 10 cents, and I decided I'm not putting money on. I'm playing 1 cent poker and I'm gonna build this bank account. Like, this is it. And I did this, I forget exactly what year I did this, but I ended up building this thing up to, I think somewhere probably around $14,000 or $15,000, right? From 10 cents. Like, and I worked my way up. Like, I didn't have any, I worked my way up from the 1-2 cent tables to the 5 cent tables to the 10 cent tables to playing, dollar tournaments or 50-cent tournaments, to all the way to the point where I was playing like $200 tournaments, and I ended up winning. I'd win tournaments and win a couple $1,000s or win $5,000, out of fields of thousands of players. I remember one of the best wins that I ever had was I came in first place in a $5 tournament out of something like 6,000 people. It was insane, right? It was very, very crazy, but I was getting really good at it. And so I spent all this time, I spent all this focus, and it wasn't just playing poker. I was playing all these screens. It was requiring my full attention. I had to be obsessed about it. I had to read all these books, staying up to date on the forums and strategy and all this, all to do this kind of very simple mechanic game that I didn't really enjoy, right? I mean, I enjoyed the thrill of it. I enjoyed the seeking of knowledge. I enjoyed the getting better at the game, and the high from winning and crushing your competition, and and just developing myself the kind of emotional mastery that I developed from playing the game. But I didn't see it taking me anywhere, right? I mean, I didn't see a way at that time in the game to really like consistently play at above like maybe making $40 an hour. And I wanted to be a professional tournament player, but again, the variance in there, like if you run through the calculations, like I did the math and like I talked to professionals and I looked at what they were saying and what they were showing, and it was like you had so much variance as a tournament player that these guys that were, quote, the professionals that were making all this money, they were just luck, right? If you look at the standard deviation, it wasn't that they were just luck. I mean, they were really skilled players, but out of this group of skilled players, some of them had to get more lucky, and they just hadn't hit a bad run yet. And so the thing is, like, I realized that I would have to build up a really large bankroll, and I'd have to live with a huge amount of variance, and I'd have to play a huge number of tournaments in order to sort of eliminate that variance. And the field was getting better and better every day, and so I didn't really see any future in it, to be honest with you. At one point, like I said, I was playing tournaments. I was consistently winning. At one point I was winning around, $500 to $1,000 a day, and I thought, okay, that's good, but still not going to get rich doing that. And it was a lot of work. I was spending 12, 14 hours during the day playing poker and reading all these books. And so that period of that didn't last too long. And I was doing this all a lot in my free time. At some point, I was doing this as a full-time job for a very short period of time. You know, I don't really talk about that much, but yeah, it didn't feel like, you know, it started to feel a lot like work, and I didn't see any future. There's no growth. Like, I wasn't going to take this ability or the skill. It didn't scale, right? It was trading dollars for hours is what it was. It was like doing consulting, except I wasn't creating any benefit in the world, and I wasn't fulfilling anything that I wanted to fulfill within myself. Just my ambition to beat people, to have the challenge, because I love a good challenge, and to compete. I love competing, but that was it, right? And so, I don't know. I got to this point where I just, after that happened, and online poker became hard to play. I mean, there's ways around it in the United States, and there was at that time. I just decided, okay, that's enough. I need to pursue something else. I need to do something different. In fact, if you look at it, that's where Simple Programmer really started to rise, as I started to devote that time. So, I didn't have a huge run. I don't want to, pretend like I was this big shot professional poker player. When I say I could play professionally, I mean I can make $40 an hour. Okay, to me that's pretty damn good. If you can sit on your butt and make $40 an hour, and you don't have to work for someone else. At least that was my dream or my vision at the time, to escape my job and to be able to be free. But I realized that that's actually a huge amount of slavery. Like, you have to do it, and you're not going to make any more. Building a business is so much of a better idea, and it's so much of a better strategy. So I think that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. I mean, I could talk about this for hours and talk about how my life was like, but again, I wasn't like some superstar. I got to the point where I could make enough money to live off of. I mean, honestly, if you're playing poker and you're in the positive, like you're actually making money, that's damn good, right? Like, people who don't play poker don't understand that, but like 90% of poker players, probably more, lose money, right? If you're making money, that's damn good. And if you're making enough money to live off of, to eat off of, you're professional. That's really, really fucking good, compared to, especially today, especially where so many people play and there's so much experience out there. Whereas when people were just playing, not online, when they're playing at the tables, it was a different game there. But so those of you that are interested, hopefully you found this video interesting. And if you're considering playing poker just professionally, just consider that it's not going to really take you anywhere beyond that in life, and that it'll probably get harder as people get better. I don't know. There'll probably be phases where new fish come in, and maybe that happens, but when I looked forward in my life, and I looked 5 years, 10 years down the road, even if I were super successful at this isn't what I wanted to be doing. And sometimes you got to just think about that. And sometimes the immediate money, or this idea, and sometimes you don't even realize how much time that is costing you, and how much you're putting into it, and how much effort that you have to do to be focused all the time. I mean, playing poker is hard. It's hard work, because you're sitting there for 12 hours, and especially if you're playing like 7, 8 screens, tables at the same time, you are focused. Like, you're not blinking. Like, you have to be there the whole time working. It definitely becomes difficult. It can become a serious grind, So there you have it. That's my story. And if you want to get more stories like this one, I can't promise you I'll be talking about poker, but I will promise you that I'll be talking about something that will benefit your life. Click that subscribe button below, and you can subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.